The 2025 Golden Boy nominees just dropped. Meanwhile, the Premier League is edging towards a salary cap, and Barcelona may have already spawned the next Lamine Yamal. This is DMAC Daily. A new popularity contest is on the horizon, folks, with the Golden Boy 2025 finalists announced, and there's a lot to talk about. For those who are unaware, this award was established by Tuttosport, a Turin-based media outlet, back in 2003, but it has since evolved to include 11 other prominent outlets in Europe. A total of 50 journalists all contribute to the voting process and utilize Benchmark's Golden Boy Index in their evaluation. This award has witnessed some esteemed winners historically, from Messi to Mbappe, Haaland, Pedri, Bellingham, alongside last year's winner Lamine Yamal. But it's also awarded some soon-to-be flops too, the likes of Anderson, Pazzo, plus Benfica duo Renato Sanchez and Joao Felix. But focusing on the 2025 nominees, and to be honest, I don't think this is a particularly contentious list. Unlike the Copa Trophy, you can only win the Golden Boy Award once, so Yamal is obviously ineligible for this honor, having won last year. Additionally, eligible players had to be born in 2005 or after, hence why the Copa Trophy's third place, Joao Neves, or Serie A's Young Player of the Season, Nico Paz, who were both born in 2004, didn't make the cut. Now, in terms of the 25 nominees, I would say there are two clear contenders here, in Désiré Doué and Pau Cubarsí. The Frenchman's breakthrough campaign was spectacular, having won a quadruple with PSG, including 2 goals and an assist in the UCL final to win PSG their first ever European trophy. He was awarded man of the match that day, while simultaneously being recognized as the UCL's Young Player of the Season, and he also finished second in the Copa Trophy. So by all logical metrics, I'd say he's the favorite to win. That being said, Pau Cubarsí is also a worthy nominee, a key player in Barca's domestic treble success. He was also included in La Liga's Team of the Season, and despite being only 18, is already a highly accomplished player for both club and country, something you rarely see from a central defender. Now, this particular award has only recognized a defender on one previous occasion, with Matthijs de Ligt being awarded in 2018, so I can't really envision it happening in 2025. Sadly, defenders just aren't as appreciated when it comes to these individual honors. On top of that, Doué delivered such a memorable performance in the UCL final, the biggest match of the 24-25 season. Like, that game in isolation goes a long way, I think. In terms of other legitimate candidates, maybe Kenan Yildiz of Juventus or Dean Hougen's breakthrough season at Bournemouth, but based off of last season, I don't think either of these two outperformed the two favorites who play identical roles to them. I've seen a few Esteval shouts going around, but I think that's a tad premature. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy already, but it's too early right now. He's not accomplished enough in the European game to be a legitimate contender. Come this time next year though, and I think it's a very different story. He's already carrying for Brazil, and his influence at Chelsea is only growing. I think he's a serious shout for 2026's award. Speaking of Chelsea, they had the most nominees with 4 in total, just in front of PSG and Real Madrid's 3 inclusions. As mentioned, I don't have too many irks with the entire list. However, I think Lille's Ayoub Boadi and Croatian prodigy Luka Vuskovic were both very unlucky to miss out. Boadi put on a clinic against Madrid and Juve in the UCL last season, and at 18 is already such an experienced central midfielder. I think if he were at a bigger club, he'd definitely be on this list. I'd certainly put him ahead of Joe Bellingham, Archie Gray, even Bergvall, to be honest. And yeah, in Vuskovic, this guy is a monster. He had double-digit goal contributions as a centre-back last season, and now in the Bundesliga, he's balling out at Hamburg. He's got my guy Thiago twerking for the Croatian. I hate that Tottenham have signed him because I think this is a future elite centre-back. If I had to pick my top 5 based off of last season's performance, in first, I'd have Miles Lewis-Skelton, just playing Désiré Doué. Second, Pau Cubarsí. Third, Kenan Yildiz. Fourth, Dean Hougen. And fifth, Esteval. But what's your top 5? Let me know below. Meanwhile, the Premier League is getting closer to bringing in one of the biggest financial rule changes in its history, the proposed anchoring system that many see as a form of a salary cap. The plan is expected to be voted on at the Premier League shareholders meeting on November the 21st, and if approved, it could reshape how clubs spend money on players. The idea behind anchoring is simple. No club would be allowed to spend more than 5 times what the bottom place club earns in Premier League broadcast and prize money. money. Based off of the latest readily available data from the 2023-24 season, when Sheffield United finished last and received £109.5 million, the maximum any club could spend on wages, transfers, and agent fees would be around £550 million. This rule is part of a wider effort to replace the current PSR rules, which allows clubs to lose up to £105 million over 3 years. Supporters of anchoring, of which there are 16 of the 20 top flight English clubs, believe it will make the league fairer overall. They argue it will stop the richest clubs from pulling too far ahead and protecting the Premier League's competitive balance. With teams now earning extra income from tournaments like the FIFA Club World Cup and the highly lucrative UEFA Champions League, they say a spending limit is needed long term to keep smaller clubs competitive. However, there is opposition from Manchester United, Manchester City, and Aston Villa, who voted against the idea, with Chelsea abstaining. Now, these critics say that anchoring would stop English clubs from competing financially with European giants such as Real Madrid, for instance, whose stadium redevelopment allows them to spend as much as £700 million under UEFA's looser rules. United co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe warned that the proposal would inhibit the top clubs in the Premier League and could make the league less attractive worldwide. The PFA is also considering legal action, arguing that the plan could unfairly limit player wages and break competition law. If the proposal passes, clubs could face heavy penalties for breaking the rules, including 6-point deductions plus 1 extra point for every £6.5 million overspent. Implementation could begin as early as the 2026-27 season, marking a major step towards an American-style model of cost control in English football. I'm not entirely sure how to feel about this, right? Because on one hand, anything to do with Americanizing, I'm entirely against. But in this instance, there are legitimate arguments both for and against. Like, the word salary cap sounds insanely radical, but it's a lot more nuanced than that. I actually think it's a lot more logical than the current PSR system, and it's not as if this proposed anchor is seriously restrictive. Under this rule, none of the biggest clubs would have held back based off of this summer's biggest spenders in the Prem. I can understand the hesitancy from some of the Premier League teams, however, they shouldn't be too concerned with not being able to compete with other European giants. Like, the Premier League is so financially dominant. I've said it before, but Sunderland outspent Real Madrid this season. The Prem is levels above everyone, but no doubt there'll be a variety of opinions on the subject in the next month or so. Moving to Barca news, and the La Masia Academy is getting out of hand. In the last few years, we've seen the likes of Yamal, Kubarsi, Baldi, Gavi, Fermin, Casado, Bernal, Fati, and a host of others come to prominence at Barca via the academy. And every single year, another 2 to 3 also enter the first team equation directly from La Masia. 17-year-old Dro Fernandez has already made his La Liga debut in 2025, but there's a certain talent within La Masia right now that has got the Barca fan base particularly excited. Not to brag here, but I was hyping up how special Yamal was set to be before he'd even made his senior debut, and in 15-year-old Imbrima Tunkara, I think he's La Masia's next crown jewel. Born in 2010, the Gambian Catalan has been the club's rising star for some time now, and aged 15 is already looking an absolute machine. Just this week, he equaled Yamal's record as the joint youngest player to score a brace for Spain's U17 team. At club level, he regularly competes against players 4 years older than him in the UEFA Youth League and with their U19 squad. His rise has been eerily similar to Barca's number 10. I mean, he also dons that iconic number for club and country, but in terms of playing style, they're very different. Sure, they're both left-footed, but Yamal is more of an inverted winger. Tunkara, however, thrives as a central playmaker. He's got all the La Masia core ingredients, right? Incredible technique, passing, and dribbling, but what gives him that X factor as a player is his immense physical prowess. At 15, bro already has top athleticism. I think by the end of the 25-26 season, he'll have already made his senior debut. Obviously, it's impossible to predict any player's future, but given his visible qualities and Barca's impeccable track record of integrating academy talent, Tunkara's breakthrough just seems inevitable. Anyways, guys, that's all for today's DMAC Daily. Catch you tomorrow.